Hey everyone, and welcome to Best Talks, bringing the best of business, education, stories, and trends. My name is Rishabh Jani, and I have a special guest, global keynote speaker, best-selling author, and a thought leader on self-leadership. I have Mr. Andrew Bryant. Pleasure having you here, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's
all right.
A busy day, but happy to be here.
All right, so you just have a couple of questions. First off, how are you doing? How was the day today?
Well, as I said, started the morning with opening keynote speech. Lots of questions after that, book signing. Then I had a lunch with other senior leaders, and they asked me lots of questions. And then I've just done a 40-minute masterclass, which was a lot of fun. And then I got an interview before this, and now here I am. So I'm buzzing, and if I speak really fast, that's because everything's going really fast.
All right. So thank you for that. So quick question, how did you decide? Now there was a lot of topics, and I've seen a lot of speakers talk on different topics. So how did you decide that self-leadership would be the topic of your choice?
Well, it goes back to 1999. I started talking about mindset and change and what you needed to do to be successful. And the reason I started talking about those is you have to go back even further. I graduated as a physiotherapist in 1982. I worked for a couple of years in hospitals, and I began to work in sport. Now, 1984, 85, there was no sports psychology. There was no positive psychology. So when I started going from patching up people's knees and ankles and backs to conditioning people to win and succeed, I had to turn to my undergraduate psychology, and that helped a bit, but then I had to reach, and I studied everything, neuro-linguistic programming. I took a postgraduate in traditional Chinese medicine. I studied hypnosis, neurosemantics, linguistics, narrative, mythology, sociology, anything I could get my hand on. And what that gave me was a mindset around how to improve people's performance. I moved to Australia, and then I was helping sports teams and sports people to win. And sport in Australia is sponsored by business. And one day I get a call from the managing director who said, "You've helped my sports team win, come and work with my management team." And he said, because Australia said, because they suck. Now, that pivot was interesting because I didn't at that time have a model. I didn't have a prescription, which was great because it meant that because I wasn't prescribing, I was diagnosing. I went and I watched. I knew how a sports team came together. I knew how sports people focus, set goals. So watching his management team, I could see the interactions and I could see the problems. And when I saw the problems, I designed a program to fix it. Then I thought I should legitimize it. I went off to do an MBA. And during the MBA, I was arguing with the lecturers and saying, what you're teaching doesn't work in the real world. And one of my professors was really cool. He said, you have some fresh ideas. Go do your research, write your own book. So I researched, and in 2012, together with Dr. Anna Kazan, I published the first of my texts on self-leadership with McGraw-Hill, and that laid out what was a unifying model of self-motivation, self-awareness, self-regulation, and self-learning, and that's my topic.
Oh, wonderful journey that you've explained. Now, if you have to explain the concept of self-leadership in a couple of sentences, so that people can understand what we're talking about, could you do that?
Oh, absolutely, because in fact, if you Google self-leadership, you get my definition. So. So the simplest way is the practice of intentionally influencing your thinking, feeling, and actions towards your objectives. So firstly, it's a practice, which means we all have an element of self-leadership every day. If you're wearing clothes and you've eaten some food and you manage transport to work, you have some self-regulation. The question is, have you done that intentionally? Have you done that with an objective in mind? Have you done it in a way that you're growing, learning, taking the feedback? So it's a daily practice. Like I took a shower this morning, all right, but I've been busy all day. I'm going to need to take a shower this evening, otherwise I will stink. So the shower works for a period of time. It's not permanent. Self-leadership, we need to constantly be intentional. What's my thinking about this? What's my feeling about this? What are my actions towards this? And everything is towards an objective, because the self-leader says, this is the best version of myself I'm moving towards. So it is always work in progress.
Oh, perfect. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so you mentioned you started speaking since 1999, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a long time since then, right? 20 years.
Yes.
So is there any experiences, something you've learned and about speaking on stage that has now helped you down to this day, that when you go on stage, it's easier now to speak on stage?
Okay. Well, I've been a professional speaker, I've been a president of the Asia Professional Speakers, so I'm constantly mentoring and helping young speakers to step up. And firstly, it's state management. You need to be physiologically ready to go on stage because your confidence creates a vessel that your content goes into.
Right.
So most speakers focus on their content. I must learn my lines, or I must learn my concept, or I'm terrified somebody's going to ask me a question. But when I walk up on stage, I've already decided stage is where I'm going to feel comfortable. I've already used my power of visualization to go, I'm going to feel comfortable on that stage. So I don't see it as a problem, I see it as an opportunity. The next piece is to be very intentional about, I have a hierarchy. So today I was asked to do the keynote speech. So for me, number one is the audience. What do they need? What can I do today that's going to make a difference for them? If I always keep that in mind, then my speech is going to go well. Secondly, the organizers, what do they need? So I turned up at 7 o'clock in the morning and I did a sound check, I did a PowerPoint check, there were some issues, we got those sorted out, and the organizers were really worried that I would be upset. I said, no, I want it to be smooth for you. So if number one is the audience, number two is the organizer, number three is me. I want to have a good time. So if those three conditions are met, then we're going to get great feedback on the speech.
Perfect. And if you were to explain, your one tip for, because there's a lot of aspiring speakers, a lot of young ones who want to get up and speak to people. So if you had this one tip that you could give someone, besides
Well, I just gave 3 tips, but I'll give you the one
Okay.
tip. Have something meaningful to talk about, right?
Right.
So we don't need speakers.
Mm-hmm.
We need thought leaders. We need inspirers. We need people who have a value proposition. So a lot of people look at speaking, it's glamorous, looks glamorous. I travel around the world at the front of the plane, I stay in some really nice places and I speak to important clients. It looks great. And it looked great when 20 years ago I saw somebody doing that. It's a very hard work. It takes a lot of research, it takes a lot of writing, it takes a lot of self-discipline. So you have to have something valuable to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I was mentoring a group of speakers here in Mumbai last night, and they were saying, how do I write a speech? And I go, look, either you're super passionate about something, but the danger of that is the audience might not be passionate, or you're super frustrated about something, and that's actually counterintuitive. A lot of people say, speak your passion. But Uber wasn't started by 2 people who were passionate about transportation. It was started by 2 people who were frustrated they couldn't get a cab. So if you're really upset about something, that actually can make you a really good speaker, right? So I'm on the faculty of Women in Leadership at Singapore Management University, and I do quite a lot of diversity talks because I'm passionate about breaking down stereotypes and biases, because I have daughters and I want the world to be a better place for them. So I'm angry that those things happen. I've sworn a pledge never to sit on an all-male panel, right? There's too many of those. If there's not a woman on the panel, it's a silly panel. Right? So you see how I was confrontational then, I was edgy. That's what's going to make you a great speaker, is have something that you're prepared to upset people about. Not too much, but enough to make them think.
Because especially with this new age of technology and everything, and we just spoke about you wanted to get something on your podcast and videos. So are you dealing with any struggles when it comes to getting your videos out there or podcasts, and how are you able to manage with that?
Not really struggling. I mean, I think if there is a struggle, it's the fact that people want quick answers. So the viral videos is 3 tips, as you've just done, right? 3 tips to solve all your problems. And my mindset is prescription without diagnosis is malpractice.
Right.
So I've overcome this challenge. I've built a Facebook community, private community. So certain people who've signed up for, have entered in. That I asked them some questions. Are they willing to collaborate? And I asked that community. So I've got 1,500 people who are my really solid followers, and I can ask them, what's your biggest struggle? And then I will shoot a video that solves their problem.
Right.
And I'll do it in a way and saying, this might not be for everybody, but this solves this problem for this situation. So I've managed to transform my online content in a way that solves problems. But I would be very careful. That we're in India, and it's a land of gurus. The best gurus are the ones that help you find your own answers, not the ones that prescribe an answer. That's the challenge in social media. Everybody's saying, I have all the answers. I'm always very suspicious with anybody who says, I have all the answers, because I don't. I'm constantly learning, and I think anybody watching this video should take responsibility for their own learning. Don't look for the easy fix. It's never that easy. The best learnings are a struggle. Those are the ones that will stay with you for life.
All right. I think that wraps it up, right? Thank you so much, Andrew, for being with us. And yeah, and all the best to you.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care. Yeah.